Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. This is an exciting week for the Baby Alien giveaway guitar. We are getting ready to spray lacquer on this thing. That's right, lacquer. On Friday, you should see this thing all covered in lacquer. But today and Wednesday, what we're going to do is get prepared for lacquer. We're going to do the pour filling, the sanding, and all the prep work that we have to do prior to spraying the lacquer on. So get ready, this is a cool week. And if you haven't entered the contest to win this Baby Alien giveaway guitar, all you have to do is subscribe here at my channel. Then go to my website, spenceracoustics.com, and just fill out that little 2-line form that pops up. I just need your name and email address so I can contact you when you win the guitar. I had to start the day by removing all the tape from the binding installation, and then I have to clean up the glue from the binding installation, because what happens is that CA, when you drip it down beside the masking tape, it actually wicks up underneath the tape and makes a mess underneath the tape. So I've got to get that all cleaned up first. With this being the Baby Alien guitar, I thought it would be nice if we try and make the top a little bit more unusual. Most of you probably don't know, but there's something called medullary rays in wood, and that's here you can see the grain going vertical. Medullary rays actually go the opposite direction and connect between the two, kind of creating a fiber. Well, if you sand this in the proper way, sometimes you can get those medullary rays to stand out and you get some very different and interesting patterns in the wood. So rather than sticking to the traditional, this being a little alien, let's see if we can expose some of those medullary grains. Medullary rays are formed by the activity of the fascicular cambium. During the process of the division of cambium, the cambium cuts out cells on both the outer and the inner side. These cells are parachimeseous. Most of these cells transform into xylem and folium, but certain cells don't transform into xylem and folium and remain as such. These cells cut out by the cambium towards the periphery are folium parachimesia, or whatever, while those towards the pith and xylem parachimesia, both of these cells work together as a secondary medullary rays. Well, at least that's what it says on Wikipedia. Well, I had you going though. For a second there you were thinking, hey, this guy's pretty smart. Look at that. Can you see some of these lines coming this way? Those are those medullary rays. Looks a whole lot better without tape on it, doesn't it? With the tape and the glue all cleaned up, now I can start scraping the binding to get them down to where they're nice and flush with the sides. Then I can start filling in any little gaps or holes with the dust and glue trick that we used earlier on the ingraft. Then I put more glue all the way around the binding just to make sure everything was glued properly. With the binding taken care of, it was time to move on to the rosette and fill any little spots that I found in there. Then it was time to sand with 100 grit, 150, 220, and then all the way up to 320. Now what I'm doing here is rounding over the edges. I do this for two reasons. First of all, lacquer or any other type of a film finish does not stick well to corners, like sharp corners. So by rounding this off, we're going to get better adhesion for the lacquer. The second reason is it makes it softer on the hands. When you pick up the guitar, you don't feel these sharp edges. It makes it a lot more comfortable to hold. Okay, I want to show you a couple little things how the binding all turned out. These seams right here, they're invisible, and they almost always are, because you're talking about long grain wood right here, so it's real easy to blend that in. It's the end grain where you're making the 45s, that's where it's difficult to make them disappear. And that's where they soak in the glue and you get a little glue line like this one here. But along here on the long grain, no problem. Same with this side here, no problem at all. That's, it's invisible. So what I wanted to show you, I know I was talking a lot about the notch in that last video. And the notch is right here. It's not something I normally put on a guitar, but since I made the mistake routering this here, I made it a little bit too deep this way, in towards the cutaway. What I had to do is there's a little, I'm not going to draw a pencil line on this because I've got it all sanded up. But maybe I will draw a little pencil line. Right here is where it should have ended. That's where the 45, if you can see that, that's where the 45 would have met right there and would have met right there. But since the router slipped and I caught too much wood, I had a couple of choices. I could either fill that with dust, which would look terrible, or I could try and patch in a little piece of walnut, which would look a little better, but you would still notice it. Or if I did this, the way I did it, and just made the maple a little bit larger, people weren't even going to, they wouldn't notice if I didn't tell you. So don't tell anybody, but this is a little wider on this side than this side. Not the end of the world, and it looks good. So that's what I did, and that's where the notch is that I kept mentioning. You can pore fill your guitar several different ways. I've used aqua coat in the past, but I haven't been completely thrilled with the way it works. It does fill the pores, there's no doubt about that. It's just how you apply it. It's very difficult to get down the process. But one good thing I can say about it, it's non-toxic, it says no odor, non-flammable, non-combustible. It's great for a shop environment. We don't have to worry about fumes and things like that. So that works, but you really have to experiment with how you can get it into pores the best way. So generally, I don't use that. What I prefer to use is epoxy. And what I found that works the best for myself is like a resin cast type epoxy, a real slow drying epoxy. This is the type of stuff they use on tabletops or to make little trinkets and stuff where you want absolutely crystal clear epoxy. So this works well because it gives you a good 24-hour, well, it's about a 24-hour cure time for this particular brand, but it gives you a large open working time, and I'm not sure what it is, but it's several hours. Let's see if I can find out. Yeah, it doesn't tell me the open time, so I don't know how long technically you have to work with this, but in the past I've had several hours. This particular product is measured 1-to-1 ratio by weight. So I had to weigh my little measuring cup just to make sure I wasn't throwing off my ratio, because I'm not mixing up an awful lot, and the cup would definitely throw off the measurement. Now the only thing we really have to seal here, or pore fill, is the rosette, the sides, and the back. So I'm going to go ahead and pore fill the rosette first, and then I'm just going to put a little piece of wax paper on it so I can flip it over and get the back and the sides. I don't know if you remember way back when we did the rosette video, but there was one little tiny pinhole that showed up. There was a bubble that came up and left a little pinhole. So I'm going to make sure I get that filled, and then all the pores in this rosette. Now for this small surface, I like to just use my fingertips. Cover that with wax paper. I can flip it over, and I've got epoxy on 2 fingers, so I'm going to change out this glove. It doesn't take as much as you might think for this, so don't go crazy pouring this all out. Only going to pull out, about a quarter size, maybe a little bigger than a quarter. Then what you need to do, you need to have a window squeegee. And we're just going to spread it out at a 45-degree angle going both directions. And then we'll finish up with a nice long pull this direction along with the grain. Alright, I'm just going to pull some of it this way. Just really kind of get my squeegee all, get epoxy from one side to the other on the squeegee. And you just keep working like this until you get it filled in. Now I can start coming and bring it back this direction. You want to get that squeegeed out really good so you don't have as much sanding to do. You don't want to have big ridges to deal with. I'm going to put just a wee bit more. Get that spread out. Yeah, it's starting to look really, really good. Now, like I said, we got to do this a few times, so it's not critical that everything gets filled this first time. But I want to scrape off that excess so I don't have so much sanding to do. Alright, now can everybody see the baby alien? There's the eyes, there's the mouth. He's got arms sticking up here and he's got legs going out over here and he's blasting something out of his butt. Yep, that's an alien. Now for the sides, what you do is you hang it off the edge of your bench so you can get the sides and just spin it around as you need it, so you can work your way all the way around. Now what I do here is I just put a little bit from my stick on there and then I just spread it around. When the color changes, you know you got it filled. Or at least the first application on there. Alright, that's the hardest part on this side. Or on the sides here. I may need to mix up a little bit more. Don't have a ton of it left, but oh, I see, so I need to blow that out, and it's out. So I'll do that before we get there. There we go. And that's good now. I'm trying to keep the string. We might just have just this last little bit here too. It doesn't need very much. I think I did 10 grams each, so I guess that's total 20 grams. Not a lot. And the next two goes I can use less because we won't have so many cores to go. There we go. That is it for coat number 1. And yeah, there was some gaps in the binding, but nothing's perfect. So now I just got to let it dry for 24 hours. Okay guys, thanks for stopping by. That is part one of pore filling. So I've got one more pore filling video on Wednesday to show you what we do after this. And then Friday, like I said, should have lacquer on this thing, but it already looks, you can tell the colors and stuff just from the pore filling. So you get an idea what this is going to look like. But man, this is an exciting week. So make sure you tune in. See you Wednesday.